The NBA playoffs are right around the corner, and the Knicks are locked into the third seed in the East. They're 4.5 games behind the Celtics and 5.0 games ahead of the Bucks, so unless something crazy happens, they're looking at a first-round matchup against Milwaukee, Indiana, or Detroit. The Bucks haven't looked like the same dominant team since winning the 2021 championship, even after trading for Damian Lillard. But their deadline moves for Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., and former Nick Jericho Sims have given them a top 5 defense since early February. They've also gone 10-6 over that stretch. Of course, they still have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's as dangerous as ever. His MVP buzz has died down, but that's more about the team's record than his play. New York hasn't faced this version of Milwaukee yet, but they'll get a taste in late March. The Knicks already crushed the Bucks twice earlier in the season, and Milwaukee still has some of the same issues that hurt them in those games. Karl Anthony Towns dominated in those wins, averaging 31 points. Brook Lopez is a solid defender, but he struggles against bigs who can stretch the floor and attack the rim like Towns can. Expect Milwaukee to try and hide Lopez on Josh Hart and force Towns to work against their wings instead. If that happens, New York will need to get creative, involving Hart in more on-ball actions or swapping him out for an extra shooter. The Bucks also don't have a great answer for Jalen Brunson. The last time they played, Brunson torched them for 44 points on just 26 shots. Milwaukee's backcourt defense is weak, so they'll likely stick their guards on OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges instead. Those two will have to step up and take advantage of that mismatch. Brunson will probably see a mix of Kuzma, Taurean Prince, and Porter Jr., since bigger wings have been the go-to strategy against him. But if there's one thing we know, it's that Brunson can figure guys out. The key will be mixing in some playmaking and keeping the Bucks' defense guessing. Even after their trades, Milwaukee's offense is still average and overly reliant on stars. That plays into the Knicks' hands. They're not a big offensive rebounding team, but they do like to push the pace. If the Knicks keep their role players from getting hot, this matchup should look a lot like last year's series against the 76ers. Tough, but winnable. The Pacers are a different story. The Knicks know them well after last year's 7-game war in the second round, but this time around, things look a lot different. New York was dealing with a ton of injuries in that series, and a lot of those guys aren't even on the team anymore. Meanwhile, Indiana has stayed pretty consistent with what worked last year. They have a top 10 offense led by Tyrese Halliburton, and Pascal Siakam has settled in, putting together an all-star season. Benedict Mathurin, who missed last year's series, is healthy now and putting up 25.3 points per game against the Knicks this season. The big question mark for Indiana is defense. They've improved a little, sitting around league average, but that's still their weak spot. If they face New York, expect a high-scoring series where the Knicks look to exploit the Pacers' defensive gaps while keeping Halliburton from picking them apart.